When we feel stuck, it can be hard to picture what's possible in the new year. But sometimes a small change, like refreshing your dinner routine, can make a big difference in your day-to-day. Cook Unity makes it easy to reset your meal habits with a variety of vibrant, healthy meals crafted by award-winning chefs. The chefs you see on TV and in five-star kitchens are the chefs who craft each small batch meal, and they're delivered directly to your door, ready to enjoy. There's no cooking required, and it's way healthier and cheaper than other delivery options. Experience the convenience of dishes made from local, in-season ingredients delivered straight to your door. It's an effortless way to savor high-quality, chef-prepared meals while feeling good about what you eat. Take a step toward a fresh start with Cook Unity, chef-crafted meals designed with you in mind. Go to cookunity.com/podcast or enter code podcast before checkout to get 50% off your first week. That's 50% off your first week at cookunity.com/podcast.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
All right. Ohio political news. Everywhere. Everywhere. You name it, we're there. Let's get this stuff out of here. All right. How's everybody tonight? Doing ya? I have nobody there. Okay, well, I have Leonard Gilbert. I'm here. Yeah, there you are. And also, Matt, I know you're all right, Matt. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. All right, very good. Good to see you. Good to see both of you guys here tonight. All right, so let's get okay, so what was happening? A lot of news. We're going to be covering the election with Trump, and it's looking really, really good in those swing states. They are looking really well. As a matter of fact, he is up for the first time in the state of Pennsylvania. And it's not just some outlier Republican poll saying that. Some of the most Democrat and left-leaning pollsters are coming out and now saying that he has at least a 1-point edge in PA. And PA is huge because if Trump's got to take Georgia, he's got to take North Carolina, which I think he will without too much problem. And then if he grabs PA, it's done. It's done at that point. He would have 270 right on the money, and that would make for a great evening. We can. Hey, this is something else here talking about Trump.
Lower slowly into the wood, don't want to burn.
Making French fries.
Evenly, just like filled up.
That's pretty good, I'll tell you. Hey, by the way, did you see the crowds out there? For the fake news. They've never seen crowds like that. Take you long.
I heard Trump's going to put this on his resume now too, that he's worked at McDonald's.
Having a lot of fun here, everybody. Look at all the fake news over there. Hello, everybody.
You can take this,
and
right?
you know this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President,
yes.
Please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
Oh, we'll keep it good.
Please.
All righty. Okay, what other thing that's interesting with Trump, though, and I was reading this, I want to get you guys' comment on this. Trump's ability to improve his favorability rating in the face of relentless, hostile media coverage. Listen to this. We've got from the Media Research Center, Harris's media coverage is 84% positive. So Harris, and how you could even find anything positive about Kamala Shamala, but 84% of the time they talk about her is positive with these mainstream media outlets. Trump, 89% negative. So They're opening his mouth. They're opening their mouth. Trump is being lambasted. But the thing is, his favorability is remarkable because it's never been higher. His favorability for Trump polling has never been higher than it is right now, which is quite amazing stuff, right? Quite amazing stuff. The guy is bulletproof, literally, and but the favorability it's in anybody else, anybody. 90% of the time, Matt, if we were, any human being plummeted 90% of the time, and yet their favorability goes up.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder. I mean, what would it be if we had a fair
that's a
and
good
unbiased
point.
media, right?
Right, if he had an honest media, where would he be? Well, he would be president probably. Well, he would have never lost. He'd have never lost, that's for sure. Hey, so let me ask you, we're going to talk a little bit about the election coverage and things like that. So what's your thoughts at the moment, though? Let's say with the national polling and all that. Are you feeling pretty good?
Pretty good is maybe a little bit of an overstatement. I got to be, but I the way that things are looking, I think I'm cautiously optimistic. The numbers from both pollsters on really, kind of lean in both directions aren't good. All the signs from the Kamala Harris campaign, the fact that she's, doing interviews on Fox News, is a sign of, I don't know that you would call it desperation, but definitely that they feel like they're taking on water, and then it's pretty much a disaster of an interview. Because
and she takes on more water then.
Exactly.
It was a disaster of an interview. Thank God too. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've heard talk about, this is sort of a death spiral because they were trying to play the game where, hide the candidate just the way they did in 2020 with Joe Biden. Don't say anything, don't campaign, only go to, extremely, friendly events. But
which are being harder and harder for her to find an event where she's not going to get booed at. I mean,
right, and then she goes to an event and somebody yells out "Jesus is Lord," and she tells them you're at the wrong event. I mean, just stepping on rakes every which way she goes. So, I'm starting to feel good. I have a friend of mine has a contact semi-close to the Trump campaign. They're starting to feel a little bit confident. I think I heard the words, hopefully being called by midnight. And I'm like, wow. Oh gosh, we'll plug our election coverage here. I mean, anybody who's watching, live tonight or on the replay, make a plan to vote and then make a plan to watch us right here on Rumble or on YouTube. Check out our election night coverage. We'll be covering it all. But yeah, I'm hoping that we'll be out. It would be nice to have a call, a presidential race call by midnight, because we saw what happened in 2020. It didn't went into the wee hours of the night, and then boom, the next day, everything vanished. So,
all right, Matt, I am trying to get you so that we can have your lower thirds with you, and it's just not working. So, oh well.
Hey, no worries.
All right, so yeah, that's a good point. I do want to bring that in as well, and that is that on November 5th, we are going to be live streaming. We're going to be covering everything that's happening in Ohio, election-wise. So if you got to tune in here if you want to find out what's going on in Ohio. But we're going to be covering Fox News and all that, so you'll know what's going on nationally as well. So we'll just be monitoring them. We'll break to them. But what you'll get from us is we're going to be covering issue 1 really close, Bernie Moreno really close. We're going to be covering some of the state house races, state reps and state Senate, Ohio races that are going to be close. There's a few of them. It's like a half a dozen of them that are close. They can go Republican or Democrat. We'll look at some of the key congressional races, like I think Derek Marin's race is going to be a close one there. He's going against Marcy Kaptur. Going against Marcy Kaptur out there.
Yeah, we've got a chance to flip 3 congressional seats from Democrat to Republican. Then any cushion we get. I mean, I think the expectation is that Republicans are going to hold on to the House come November, but the bigger the margin, the better. So Those three races are important. And, what you talked about, issue one, the Bernie Moreno race, nobody, Fox or Real America's Voice or any of those national shows, that's great. Have them on your side TV or have us on one screen, have the national on the other. But I can almost guarantee nobody's going to be following issue one. You're not going to hear about issue one results anywhere, I think, pretty much, other than right here. So, make an appointment November 5th after you go vote. Come on here. I don't know when we'll be starting. 7:30, 8. I don't know.
We'll start at 7:30. Definitely start at 7:30. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually thinking of maybe starting at about 6:30, but I'm just telling people to come on at 7:30. But there's so much to talk about, and if I can find anybody out there to talk with me at even starting at 6:30, 6:45, this is it, guys. This is like the seventh game of the World Series. You got to win this, okay? Whew. Man, so Leonard, you're not going to be with us on election night. You're going to be at the polls voting, right? You're going to be working at the polls, I should say. You'll be working at the polls, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep, that's my life. That's what I do. So.
No, that's a good thing to do. There, they need Republicans out there, and but just to make sure, that you see any dead people walk in and they want to vote for Kamala, make sure you check their ID, okay?
Joe, what's interesting about it is that, like I said, I was talking about this last night. I don't know what all the other counties are doing, but like I said, I have since I took an oath, okay, to when I go to work as a poll worker, and I'm supposed to protect the integrity of the voting system. So if I see something, I'm supposed to say something, regardless of what the Secretary of State hands down as law. I'm bound by that oath. So if I have to challenge something, I have the right to do that. And I could say I don't want this person voting because I want him to go provisional because I don't think he's proved that he can vote on the machine. You could do that. But most people, they just don't think they can do it or don't know about it, or if it's not really talked about much. So that's something we need to make sure people are aware of. You can contest it. At least I know in Lake County you can.
Yeah, no, I think that's statewide. That's statewide law. I mean, if a challenge is made, and if they don't, if a poll worker, I believe it's almost anybody, wants to make a challenge or doesn't believe that the person is who they say they are or whatever it is, they're not actually a qualified elector. They can make that challenge based on on I think certain things. You guys had a great show last night with Marcel Sturbich and Jack Windsor. I encourage everybody to watch the replay of that because they talked about some of that. There are, it sounds like Lake County, where Leonard is they're going through the training and doing it the right way. But there are a couple counties where they are not telling people what their duties are. They're in fact being told, though, they're not the ID police. The reason we have an ID requirement now is so that you can verify that the person presenting themselves to vote is the person they say they are. And their job is they need to present an ID to prove it. And it is the poll worker's job to literally look at the ID and confirm that that's the person. That's why we have the ID. That somebody was being told they're not the ID police, and if you can't handle it, you can't be a poll worker, or maybe you should find something else to do on election day. That's unconscionable. Jack Windsor's been talking about that. Bob France has been, and you guys talked about it last night. So I think we'll be posting a clip of that interview shortly, coming up this week. If you can,
the thing that bothers me, though, Matt, here's what bothers me is when you're talking about the day of, because that's what we're referring to here, the day of the election, voting in person, you're showing the ID and all that. What happens with all the early voting? That's been going on for 30 days. You don't show an ID. What do you write down? Maybe the last 4 digits of your social security number. And from what I've heard, if it doesn't match, sometimes they'll send you a postcard saying, hey, redo it the correct way. And if you don't correct it, they'll still send you a ballot. That was one of the big problems we saw with this whole voting shenanigans. But the 30 days prior to voting, there's nobody saying, hey, let me see your ID. You could just very easily say, well, I don't have a driver's license, here's my last 4 digits. And that's where all the cheating is going in. And here's another thing that's really got me irked now. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, I know of those 4 states are saying that they're not going to be done with the counting on election night. And that should be outlawed. I think they have some.
I mean, what do we have them? So we're told over and over, well, you can't hand count ballots. It would take too long. And so, okay, so you have machines. What could possibly? I mean, we're talking about scanning ballots into a computer machine, and it spits out a total. You tally them up. I don't understand this idea that you are unable to count votes. I don't care how many votes there are.
Yeah, but
you can't count them using computers in a handful of hours and report the total. This could not be rocket science.
No, it's not. It's not rocket science. But I think what they got is the loophole they have. I think the loophole is that they allow you to do the early voting up until Election Day, and so then they wait for anything that's been postmarked on Election Day to come in. That is just ripe for cheating, and. Elon Musk.
Even beyond, I think that you can even, as long as it's, like something could be postmarked on Election Day, and they won't say, well, it's not official. We can wait. There's a handful. There's a waiting period, right? So if it's close enough that there are still outstanding, ballots that may be out there that were postmarked on Election Day. So postmarked on Election Day, they can't even get them on Election Day. Obviously, they're going to get them a couple days after.
So you mean if they're sending it to the person on Election Day, it will count?
If you're doing a mail-in, if a voter is doing a mail-in ballot, I think the rules are in some states they've got to be postmarked on it. If they're postmarked by Election Day, it's fine, right? Mm-hmm. So usually, very rarely, that's going to be a small number of people. But if it's a close enough race, and X number, we still have 5,000 ballots that were requested that are unaccounted for. Maybe they were postmarked in time. We're not sure yet. We're going to wait. And so all that waiting game does is allow for more potential shenanigans, more ballots to be discovered in closets and all that kind of stuff that allegedly take place in some of these corrupt counties.
Yeah, they bring in the white van at 2:00 in the morning the following day, and they just unload tens of thousands of ballots and stuff like that. Let's see what else is going on here. Kamala Harris skipped out on that Al Smith dinner. Okay, and let's talk about this for a minute. Which was a major blunder on her part, but all she does is blunder. Okay, she just her campaign is just sinking like a rock, okay? But I want to tell you, you know why she did that? Do you know why? You know why she blacked out? I don't know what she's going to say, but it was because there was these PACs that Trump had put out. Well, somebody put them out. These PACs attacking some of the senators in some of these key states because they were so anti-Catholic. And Trump had it all planned that he was, during the roast, he was going to roast her and hit her with all of these examples and stuff like that. But here's a little bit of it to give you a taste of what was going on here.
Give up their lives.
This is one of those. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's 2 minutes long, but listen to this. This thing is like really direct. It is hard hitting.
To care for the elderly and homeless, but Ruben Gallego joined the Democratic Party's cruel war against them by supporting the leader of the 23 attorney generals trying to force the sisters to violate their faith and pay for abortion pills. Ruben Gallego went along with Kamala Harris and Democratic senators who sought to impose an unconstitutional religious test against Catholics to make Catholics give up their faith to become judges or hold office. Ruben Gallego supported the...
So they put all this out, just so you understand. The Trump team is so smart. Okay, now I can't say the Trump team because it was a PAC, and it was a PAC that's not affiliated with Trump, but we can put 2 and 2 together, I think. The thing is, it's just attacking this guy about his anti-Catholic beliefs. Boom, boom, boom. And they were doing this in a lot of the swing states against the senators and stuff. And he was going to just go after Kamala at that dinner about all this stuff. She knew it. Her campaign knew it. They
Biden
were afraid.
administration's gender craziness, forcing Catholic schools to destroy women's sports and allow men in women's locker rooms. Gallego supported the Harris-Biden administration's attempts to force Catholic doctors, nurses, and hospitals to perform abortions. Gallego never protested the Harris-Biden use of SWAT team tactics and jailing of peacefully protesting pro-life activists. Gallego also refused to speak out against the Harris-Biden use of the FBI to target traditional Catholics as potential terrorist threats, and he won't criticize the FBI director for his false testimony. Gallego is a pro-abortion extremist, supporting unrestricted up-to-the-moment-of-birth abortions paid for by taxpayers, and even voted against legislation that would protect newborn abortion survivors. He
This
even
is
refused
ruthless,
to
isn't
speak
it?
out against a Democratic governor justifying the killing of children who survive abortions. Ruben Gallego stayed silent, even as the Harris-Biden White House mocked Catholics and all Christians by
I
replacing
mean, it is just ruthless. It's never ending. It's a 2-minute long spot. These were being aired like repeatedly in some of these swing states, and it just, of course, Kamala, like the Wicked Witch of the West or whatever, she just melted. Didn't want to go and be a part of the Al Smith dinner, and it was a complete disaster for her. And the Brett Baer interview was another complete disaster for her, and it's just one thing after another. I'm surprised it's close. I am really surprised that this race is close at all. But let's look at some of this stuff here. Polymarket. Do you know what Polymarket is, guys? You familiar with Polymarket?
Is it a betting? Is it actually a betting site or
Yeah, it's a betting site. Yeah.
Right.
So what's neat about it is right now the bet, and this is where you can see some legitimacy, I think. All right, the betting markets are saying there's a 63% chance that Trump is going to win. 63, and that's been going up. I wouldn't be surprised it gets to like 70% within a week. And this is what it's looking like right now. They're giving, PA right now 62% chance. This is the betting market, 62% chance that Trump wins. Look at Ohio. 94% chance that Trump takes Ohio. Virginia is they got 84% for Harris. I was hoping Trump would do, but Trump's really not doing horrible in Virginia. He's really not. Georgia, 69%. North Carolina, 66%. You get out to Nevada, 56% chance that Trump takes it. Arizona. Look at Arizona. It's supposed to be up for grabs, a toss-up. I don't think it is, at least not according to the betting market. 71% chance that Trump takes Arizona. And they don't just, people aren't going to throw their money out there just for the sake of throwing money out. They're going to really look at it. They're going to investigate these polls. They scrutinize the polls. Polls can say one thing. Okay, Harris is up by 3, Trump's up by 3. But then you want to look at the breakdown of those polls. You want to see how many Democrats and Republicans they sampled, and lots of things like that, or how many independents. Maybe it's just made up of a lot of left-leaning independents or whatever. So there's a lot that goes into it when you get to the betting, and that's let's see what New York is. He's only got a 3% chance of taking New York. What do you think California would be? You guys want to guess?
Probably a 1. What do they have Minnesota at? I'm curious because I think I
2%.
saw a poll came out that actually had Minnesota in the still 88%.
Yeah, 88%. This is the betting market. Yeah, 88% for Minnesota. But I'll tell you what. Now Wisconsin is a 57 for Trump. I mean, Wisconsin
this looks like the 2016. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, this is almost exactly the 2016 map. I don't know. Maybe he didn't get Nevada in 2016, but just for I guess my heart rate on election night, I'd prefer it to be a blowout like this, or even more so. I mean, if we're talking about 1%, 2%, those are numbers that are going to make people hold off and maybe it's still going to happen. I'd like to go to bed early and rest assured that we're maybe getting a little bit back on the right track with in this country. But
let's look at some of this. This is real clear politics here. So this is now what's interesting with Minnesota is the last poll they did was way back on the 23rd of September. That's a long time ago. Harris was up only 2.1. And that ain't much. And I know it's definitely gotten closer since then, but they haven't done any polling in anything more recent in Minnesota, which is strange. Now, Virginia is another one. Harris is only up in Virginia by 1.5, okay? 1.5. But But when you look at the latest polling in Virginia, there's nothing that's really that. Well, there's this one here, this Christopher Newport. We had her up by 11, but the Emerson only had her had her up by 8. I don't know. I have to look at this a little bit. But right now, well, based on that, it seems kind of strange. Which one was I looking at again? I forgot. Oh, I was. Let me look at Pennsylvania here for a second. Okay, so Trump is up about 1 point in Pennsylvania. Okay, so you have Trafalgar, who did a poll very recently, just a few days ago. 2 days ago, they completed their polling. They got Trump up by 3. Trump up by 3 in that. All right, so that's really good. That's really good because listen, Pennsylvania is the killer. Pennsylvania is the killer. If Trump could take PA, because I know he's going to take Georgia and he's going to take North Carolina, and he does that, and with PA, it's over. I mean, it's a done deal. So these numbers look really, really good for Trump. A lot of these are averages. See, these are averages. But if you look at just the most recent polling that is coming up, and they are going to have a Rasmussen is going to have a poll out either tomorrow or the next day on Virginia, and that'll be interesting. That will be very interesting to see. Because if he can take Virginia right here, that would be killer. Because then you almost don't even need PA. You'd only have to get 6 more votes. You could get that from Nevada. So it's looking good. It's looking good for Trump. It really is. And it could be an early night. Let's just hope that it's an early night. I'll go to bed early, and I've got these firecrackers that I have set aside now. Good grief! It's over 4 years now. I don't even know if they'll work. But I bought all these fireworks, Leonard. I bought all these fireworks, man. I bought a big thing of fireworks. I was going to shoot them off in my Democrat neighborhood. Okay, everybody in the neighborhood is a Democrat.
I know that feeling.
Okay, you know the feeling. Okay, but I've got these. Man, I bought this like 500 firecrackers. I was just gonna light this thing off. I don't care if the cops come or not. I was just gonna be hooting and hollering and letting it go. And they would know why, because right at as soon as they declared Trump the winner, 500 firecrackers going off. That's kind of obvious. But I have to save them because now they're 4 years old. Their gunpowder's probably not any good. I don't know.
Hey, I have a question for maybe Mr. Matt can help me out here. As I was doing some, I've had discussions with the Lake County Republican chairman. We were talking about the Electoral College, and now it's my understanding that Ohio is a winner-take-all state. Okay.
Yep.
And Are all the other states functioning that way, or are there other states out there that don't use that method?
So Nebraska and Maine, actually, you might, if Joe brings up that map again, either the RCP or the Real Clear Politics map, or maybe the Polymarket map. I'm not sure. So, and it's a little grainy on my view there. So if you look over at Maine, you see ME1 and ME2, right? So those Maine and Nebraska split. It's not winner take all. Nebraska does theirs by their congressional district. Same thing with Maine. So those are the two that don't do winner take all. So when you're fiddling around on those maps, that's why you see that. I think Maine has one definite Republican county, and the rest of Maine is Democrat. I think Nebraska is the opposite. They have a few more electoral votes, but I think the district centered around Omaha is a Democrat district, or definitely a lean Democrat district. So there you see the little pie charts there.
Okay, there's 86% chance that he takes that one vote in Maine, and it looks like the other one is definitely going to Harris. Yeah, and then here it is. This is kind of easy to see here. Trump's got a 99% chance of taking that one vote in Nebraska. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's kind of strange that they would do that, though. But they divide it up. A state divided up. It's weird. Yeah.
So now let me pose another question then. So are we saying then, based on winner take all, is it really now a mob rule situation
for each state?
Well, how do you mean by mob rule? So what you're doing is you're electing, you're voting for the electors for Donald Trump when you fill in the bubble or tap the screen, whatever the case may be. You're voting for the slate of electors. In Ohio, it would be 17. We get 15 for each of our congressional seats and 2 for our senators. That's how the electoral college is made.
Right.
Everybody gets at least 2, and then there's 1 for every congressional seat. So we've got 17 votes. I think that means there are 17 individual people that are assigned. Their job is to, when the time comes, to vote for Donald Trump. It's a sort of something that we don't really think about. And I know you've brought this up a couple of times. Like, where do these people come from, right? Like, what if they, there can be, I think they call them faithless electors, who could theoretically not vote the way the voters tell them to. And I think maybe in some obscure cases in history that has happened, but I don't think it's ever happened to change the outcome.
See, they could change if they wanted to. Okay, so for, like Matt was saying, in Ohio, you got 17 electors or whatever. Now, I was a substitute elector for Trump one year. I don't know if it was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. I had to sign a sheet. So I had to fill out a sheet saying that, if I was to be one of the electors, which was wasn't going to happen because a bunch of people would have to die in order for me, but it was just an honor. Hey, I'm a substitute elector. But anyhow, I had to sign a sheet saying that I would vote for Trump, and I think that there's something legal binding, probably, unless those electors definitely didn't want Trump, then they would be rallying to change it. But that ain't going to happen. But each individual state is kind of like a mob rule in a way, if you want to look at it that way, because each state. Now, I'll tell you what else I think. I think that there should be a cap on how many electoral votes you can get, because the whole reason why you don't want to do population is because California and New York would just swamp most of the country, and none of these smaller states are going to have much of a voice. But they keep growing in electoral colleges. They're swamping it anyhow. California's got 54 electoral votes. That's ridiculous. They ought to cap it. A state ought to be capped at like 45 or 40. That's it. All right? That's all you get. And then start throwing into some of the other lesser populated states so that everybody has a clear voice. Because if you just build it up in California and New York and Texas and a few other places, then they rule the roost anyhow. So to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, Leonard, the alternative is, right, so Ohio votes as a state, and whoever wins the most votes among the population gets all 17 of those electoral votes, even no matter whether it's an edge of a fraction of a percent like we might see in some of these states this year, or whether it's a complete and utter blowout. If you split it up into district by district, then you're starting to get closer to the maybe a proportional will of the people type situation. But ultimately, it all breaks down to the will of one individual, and then you're getting to a full, just plain old popular vote count, which to Joe's point, we definitely don't want. The states are sovereign. The states formed a compact back in 1780, whatever. You might know the exact year. I'm probably brushing up on my need to brush up on my constitutional dates, but we have 13 sovereign states, and they all agreed to a certain set of rules, and the states are sovereign. So individually, they are putting forward their electors, and that's why we have those little quirks. Maine decided on their own that this is how we're going to break down our electoral college votes, and same thing with Nebraska. Everybody else goes winner take all. I don't really have an opinion as far as what the best way is. It's certainly easier when you're trying to figure out the math of these presidential elections. The winner take all system makes it a little bit easiser, but
but I'll tell you what else. I just thought of something here, and that is, instead of capping the electoral votes at, say, 45 or something like that, you can give California all 54. But then you have to break it up like they do in Maine and they do in Nebraska. So a certain region of California gets 20 electoral votes, another region gets 34. That would be interesting, because California is not all Democrat. Okay, you've got L.A., San Francisco, those big cities that are all Democrat, loony birds. But you've got a lot of Republicans out there too in California. You got a lot of Republican territory. Some of the other cities.
It's pretty darn miserable. Well, it's like you in Cleveland Heights, right, Joe? They exist. They're out there. I don't know. They maybe come out of the woodworks. I don't know how many are brave enough to put up their Trump signs in some of these very heavily Democrat areas. But you're living in the California of Ohio, I guess, equivalent maybe, I don't know, Upper Arlington and in Columbus. I don't know Cincinnati that well, but yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, it has to. The state ultimately has to decide, and I think that actually goes down to either the state constitution or the legislature. The legislature could decide, hey, here we're going to allocate our votes differently. But and we can talk about. I mean, we talk about proportionality, and might go into some issue 1 stuff for Ohio, because I mean I was looking up, Massachusetts. Well, the issue 1, everybody got to make sure when you get out to vote, vote no on issue 1 when on November 5th or beforehand. They talk about, Ohio's a gerrymandered state because there's 67 Republicans in the Ohio House, 67 out of 99, and it's not a 67% Republican state. Well, go to Massachusetts. Massachusetts, they got 9 people, representatives in Congress, and all 9 of them are Democrat. Every single district in Massachusetts is a Democrat-drawn district. There's no proportionality there. It's not 100% Democrats in Massachusetts.
Right. That's a real good point. Right. Yeah, that's a real
Democrats
good point.
Democrats control the state, and they get to draw the lines. That's just the way it goes. That's how.
Right. So in these Democrat, that's a great point. In these Democratic stronghold states, there is no such thing as gerrymandering. So, like you said, every single district or whatever is Democrat. It's only in these Republican run, especially swing states or Ohio or whatever. Oh, well, there's gerrymandering, so we've got to divvy it up. Listen, let's go into issue 1, because man, this was riling me, and I want to talk about something that there's a podcast on Cleveland.com. Okay, so the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which is a newspaper here in Cleveland, which is liberal as all get out. Okay, as liberal as all get out, and it's only about like 3 pages long anymore. I mean, the newspaper is it's just like. It's almost going to just evaporate, okay? It doesn't get the readership that it used to. But the problem is they are so left-leaning, it's sickening, and they're supposed to be a news outlet. They're not there for entertainment. We're kind of like an entertainment podcast, okay? We're going to vote for Trump. But they're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to be giving you the truth. It's supposed to be in a well-established news organization, and it's anything from that. So listen to this a minute. Let's pick this apart, okay? Let's pick this apart on issue 1.
Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose tried another tactic to get his lies about issue 1 before.
And just right off the bat there, he's talking about, this is Chris Quinn of Today in Ohio. This is their podcast from October 21st, which that's today, right? Bad-mouthing Frank LaRose and bad-mouthing issue 1.
Voters, but one Northeast Ohio mayor refused to participate. Laura, who saw through LaRose's ruse?
This is University Heights Mayor Michael Dillon Brennan. And he says, Frank LaRose asked us to put his information on our website with the link to the Secretary of State's website all about issue 1.
The reason I'm playing this is that you guys can hear just how biased they are, okay? They're supposed to be neutral.
He said that's nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to recruit local officials into helping him spread Republican propaganda against issue 1. Because remember, LaRose's ballot summary language for issue 1 is misleading at best, lies at worst, and LaRose shot back that this criticism is nonsensical. And I love that he's got this match going between him because he's saying, he shouldn't use his office for political purposes.
Yeah, right.
When it's like, okay.
All right, so let's just stop there for a minute. So, you heard what they said. Issue 1 is propaganda. It's all lies. All lies. Pretty amazing stuff, right? Pretty amazing. I will play more, but you know what the thing is with this Chris Quinn guy, and every time I listen to the podcast and I have to hear him, it just irritates me. I can't take it anymore. Chris Quinn, who the hell is Chris Quinn? He's just a podcaster. Oh, well, that's all I am too. But the thing is, why do we put credence in some guy who's like a Chris Quinn? Probably isn't even his real name. Why would we do that? Why would we? Let me find it here. I lost it.
He's the editor of Cleveland.com.
Cleveland.com.
Of The Plain Dealer. And I wonder, you listen to people who are, they know the audience. That's the thing. The only people, and I was going to say, sadly, the only people still subscribe to The Plain Dealer are liberals. But, the thing is there are. My father, I know how skinny The Plain Dealer is because I go, to my parents' house and they still get it because that's just what you did. When you were that age, you get the daily newspaper. I don't know if the actual print newspaper is as rife with political bias as this podcast clearly is. But then again, my dad, who's 80-something years old, isn't listening to podcasts. I honestly don't know who is listening to this Cleveland.com podcast. But, they know who their audience is, and they're pandering to it. They're trying to cling to some sort of loyal subscriber base because of their failing, and they can't make revenue and all that stuff.
Yeah, I got you. But it's just it's sickening.
That's all you've done with the Secretary of State's office since you got in there. You've made it harder to vote. You've sided with Republicans on every possible issue.
LaRose, by the way, made it harder to vote. So he's actually asking for an ID. Just like if I buy my non-alcohol beer, I got to show an ID. I don't know why they ID me. For non-alcohol beer, I think they just have to key in an age, And sometimes they'll ask me for an ID, so they key in the correct age, and it's like, just key in anything, get off my back. But
issue that's ever come before you, and with this issue 1, it is to keep the Republican supermajority. That's his goal. And so he wants people to defeat issue 1 because he doesn't want fair representation in the state house. And so he's asked mayors to spread this message.
All right, let's talk about that for a second. So you think that's accurate, that the whole idea is just to keep a supermajority? See, here's the way the maps are drawn right now is you have a district, they're all next to each other, okay? So Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Shaker, whatever, that's a district for a state rep. So they're all together. What they want to do now with this issue 1, if it passes, they want to take a chunk out of Cleveland and then extrapolate it out to Geauga County, grab all of Geauga County. They want to do all these weird maneuvers because everybody who's a Democrat is all convened in close quarters. They like to just stay elbow to elbow with each other. They're in Cleveland, like I said, this area or Columbus area. But they all congregate. You get outside their little congregation into the suburbs, it starts dissipating, and you get out even further, they're never to be found. You can't find a Democrat.
Well, yeah, that's the terminology they use when they talk about gerrymandering is packing and cracking. What you do is when you're trying to quote unquote gerrymander a district map, is you try to pack as many of the party that you're trying to disadvantage. You try to pack them all into a single district. That way you get rid of them all, and then you got more people of your favored party in the other districts. Unfortunately, the way it is in Ohio is that the Democrats have more or less packed themselves into the small handful of urban areas: Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and then you have some in Toledo, some in Akron, Dayton's another one, right? So these are the urban areas where the vast majority of Democrat voters are found. When they congregate there, they're all stuck there. It becomes impossible to fairly draw a map that is quote unquote proportional. And I mentioned Massachusetts. You could not, if you looked at a map of Massachusetts, it's all blue. But that's because but it's not as if there are no Republicans. But you literally cannot draw a Republican district you'd have to gerrymander one lousy district for Republicans in a congressional map.
Yeah, watch this. Watch this a second. This highlights what you're just talking about there.
In the issue 1, authors realize that in order to draw majority Democrat districts, you have to go into those islands of blue and you have to drag them out into the suburbs and into the rural areas, because that's the only way you can draw as many Democratic districts as they want in the state of Ohio, meaning your cities, your counties, your villages, all must be needlessly split up for political gain.
Yeah, so that's a big part of it right there. That's
so.
What
And
we're
you can look
about.
at the maps that they drew in Michigan where they passed this kind of thing, and you see that happening. You see cities like Ann Arbor and Lansing. There's a center point where those urban areas are suddenly divided into 3 or 4 districts that reach way out into clear red areas because they needed to load up on Democrat districts. So what ends up happening is you have large swaths of Republican areas who are stuck with the Democrat representation, and that's gerrymandering on the opposite side, right? It's drawing the districts in unnatural ways to favor Democrats to achieve some sort of predetermined outcome.
Yeah, in very, very unnatural ways. And the money, too. This is the other thing that Chris Quinn never talks about is the money. The $20 million of the $23 million came from outside the state of Ohio, and then the $3 million that did come from inside the state of Ohio was just a few radical leftist groups funneling all that money. But here's some of that clip here.
Issue 1 effort raised $22.25 million. In the last semi-annual filing, 85% of it came from outside the state of Ohio.
Look at that. The $19.2 million came from outside the state of Ohio. This is not a grassroots initiative like they keep telling us. Maureen O'Connor keeps telling us grassroots initiative. Yeah, right. $19.2 million came from out of state.
That money didn't come from individual contributions, but instead it came primarily...
Look at that group there for a minute. A lot of DC, a DC liberal group, DC nonprofit, DC social justice, the teachers union, George Soros, Hans-Georg Weiss. These guys are just chunking in millions and millions into the state of Ohio.
Oh, Joe, wait, look at that list. It's a who's who of grassroots activists, right? That's the grassroots, right? Teachers union, George Soros, grassroots. Yeah. San Francisco social justice. What does San Francisco social justice have to do with Ohio?
Yeah, that's the grassroots movement right there. So maybe we should show Chris Quinn this, right? And say, hey, where's the grassroots movement that you keep talking about? Because he hasn't researched this at all right? He hasn't researched it at all.
From dark money groups. 55% of that money was from the Washington, D.C. metro area.
55% of that $19 million came from D.C.
Why would they care so much about what we do here? Because it's about overturning the will of the voters in the state of Ohio. They're after...
I mean, that's what it's all about, guys. Follow the money. Follow the money.
That's the other talking point. You brought up Maureen O'Connor. The other talking point is the current districts were ruled unconstitutional by a bipartisan Supreme Court. And okay, yes, technically you're correct, because Maureen O'Connor for a long time claimed she was a Republican. Now she's holding hands with all those Democrat special interest groups to get this thing passed. And I'm hearing, and I don't know, is it spreading rumors? Is it wrong to spread rumors? We're just a podcast, so sure, it's fine. the story was, so Maureen O'Connor, the story that I'm hearing is that in Ohio, there's no term limits on Supreme Court justices, but there is an age limit. Once you get past a certain age, and I believe it's 70, you can't run again. And the story is that she wasn't happy with that arrangement. She wanted the legislature to change the law, and they would not. And this is payback for them not accommodating her desire to stay on the Supreme Court. That's the rumor. So you can make of that what you will. But that very fact that this could be just a vindictive payback over the people who didn't give her what she wanted. And this is a retired judge. She's supposed to be above the fray. She's supposed to be apolitical. If that's the case, that's especially disgusting. It's disgusting enough that she's doing it the way she's doing it, and just running to the media every single time, and they can say, "Oh, bipartisan." Oh, the bipartisan court said it was unconstitutional. The only reason it was is because of it's her.
Yeah, she was the one who kept saying, no, it's not constitutional. So you had 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and it was split. She's supposed to be a Republican. What a joke of a laugh that is. And she kept saying, it's not, these maps are not fair. So she took the side of the Democrats, like you said.
Yeah, and the Democratic mayors, I don't think will. I saw some Republican mayors who are. I've even seen this sinister thing going on some of the social media sites, like Nextdoor, where clear shills for this go on, and they make these phony arguments. And because social media is filled with people who don't
phony arguments, I'd like to know what those arguments are. He's just anything that's against issue 1 is a phony argument. Give me a break.
Anybody who's against issue 1 is a shill. Meanwhile, this guy is basically doing the Cleveland Plain Dealer is basically in-kind contributions to the Democratic Party, and he's not a shill. But the people on Nextdoor, they're shills. Go ahead.
Use good sources. The ensuing debate is beyond weird. But no,
any kind of a debate is beyond weird.
Nobody's buying it. I mean, people are looking at those lies and going, come on, this is just stupid. It's a shameful act that Frank...
I don't like to know what the lies are. Notice that he does not get specific as to what the lies are. He probably doesn't even know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know the money coming in. He's clueless, okay? He's clueless.
Rose is trying here. He's using his office to go to mayors who he thinks have good touch with their residents. I don't know that they do. I think when residents get this kind of nonsense from their mayors, they roll their eyes. The people in Ohio are smarter than this. But this is one of the most underhanded, sneaky, sleazy campaigns in the...
Okay, so it's underhanded, sleazy campaign.
History of Ohio. This matches the Red China stuff about First Energy when Householder was corrupting the state there. It's a lie. You said it's at best misleading. It's not misleading. It's a flat-out lie. This is not gerrymandering. They're trying...
Okay, we got to insert laughter there. Insert laughter there where he says, this is not gerrymandering. Now, the people that are listening to that podcast, like you said, he's going after those Democrats, those loony leftists who are just soaking it all up, okay? But they're clueless. It's 30 pages. The whole instructions for issue 1 is 30 pages long. That's what was on. If you signed a petition, if you're one of the 500,000 people that signed that petition, did you read all 30 pages so that you could absorb what this all entails? Give me a break. Not one of them read that. Of course not. And the people that had the clipboards, because I was standing next to a lady that had a clipboard, believe it or not, in Cleveland Heights. And it's just like, hey, you want to stop gerrymandering? Sign this. Oh, yeah, I don't mind stopping gerrymandering. Give it to me. Let me sign it. Hey, stop gerrymandering. Sign this. You got something to say there, Leonard? Go ahead.
Speaking of lengthy, I don't know, because I've been at the work of the board of elections. But when you go through that ballot, if someone wants to read the whole thing, you have to flip through 9 pages. And
nobody will do that. Yeah. And if they've reduced it, wait a minute, if they've reduced it to 9 pages, that they've taken 31 pages and they've reduced it to 9, that means that the print's got to be like that. You'd have to have a magnifying glass to read it.
But what's interesting is you're still getting a lot of people saying, "Hey, what's this issue 1?" And I says, "Oh my Lord." Okay.
Just got to know. Vote no. Vote no.
Leonard, yeah, you say vote no and subscribe to Ohio Political News. That's yeah. If all they want to do is know is how to vote, you say, vote no. Yeah. If they want to know why, say watch Ohio Political News every Sunday and Monday, and that you'll get yourself an education here.
Yeah, yeah. We're not.
You know what's interesting? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What's interesting to me is that I could see why the founding fathers never intended for us to have a party system, because when someone says the word bipartisan to me, that means compromise. So I never did buy into that. And then when I started looking at our society, Matt, I mean, if we really had an educated society, and let's say we had somewhat of a godly society, I mean, it would be an issue of right versus wrong, as opposed to Republican versus Democrat. This is amazing to me. It's just amazing. So, how far we've drifted.
George Washington said, beware of factionalization and turning into parties, and I think he was, not even a year. It was happening while he was there. Very quickly, we sort of devolved into that party fighting, and maybe back in the day, I mean, that's just the nature of our system. We're gonna polarize into two groups, whether it's the 18th century and it's Federalist and anti-Federalist, or whatever it is, or now it's good versus evil, however you want to put it. That's just how it is. I like the way you talked about when you hear bipartisan, that means compromise. I think there was a comedian who said the only thing worse than a Democrat or a Republican is when these two idiots work together. That's got a scary proposition.
That's a good one, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Working together is uniparty stuff. So you got to fight. See, here's what I also want to say is, notice how much they went after LaRose. Okay, they hit him again and again and again. And what happens is the politicians really need to start fighting back. Okay, because the left is brutal. The left, they don't take any prisoners. They just constantly go after any of these Republican.
Well, I think that's why LaRose never didn't get. LaRose was running. He was running for U.S. Senate, was he not? Or I'm trying to remember now, because he made such a lack of impression. Yeah, he ran for U.S. Senate. It was Bernie Moreno, Matt Dolan, and Frank LaRose, and he's been flip-floppy and wishy-washy. Whoever's in the room with them, he agrees with them, and he sounds good to them. But I think at the end of the day, people see right through that. Marcel and Jack Windsor last night, to a certain extent, were talking about. He's afraid of the lawfare. The way is not, you can't be afraid. I mean, if you cower, I mean, the left are bullies, and you can hear it. There isn't a single during this podcast that you're talking about from Cleveland.com, there isn't a single argument made. It's nothing but ad hominem attack. So Frank LaRose is doing this, and it's bogus, and the idiots on Nextdoor are doing. Like, have we heard a rational argument? Have we heard a reason to actually vote for issue 1?
No,
we haven't heard it.
No, you won't. And you won't. That's the point I was trying to make. You summed it up very well. That's what they do. That's their tactics. That's the left's tactics all the time. They don't have in-depth knowledge on anything. That's what I was saying. Those two, that Quinn and his co-host, they don't have any knowledge in issue 1. They don't have any knowledge in issue 1, okay? But they're just, you got to pass it. You got to stop gerrymandering, and Republicans are dumb, and LaRose is dumb, and the whole thing is dumb, and if you say anything else, you're a liar, and blah, blah, blah. It's just... And I run into that here in Cleveland Heights when I talk to people sometimes. Some of these liberal leftist loonies. I want to get into some of the depth of the discussion, and they don't want to hear it. They'll say Trump is stupid, this, that, and then it's done. And I'm supposed to just take it. But when I wanted to have like you said, let's have a real rational discussion on it. That's like, oh my God, no. Hey, listen to this real quick. It says I've never heard of these bloggers, Noah Smith and Tyler Cowen. Maybe you guys have. I don't know. But they said there's growing indications that the leftward drift of the party and the country's cultural has stopped. So I hope they're right. And they said that it's a reversal to the right is now happening in this country. And they said no matter who wins, the U.S. is moving to the right. They were arguing this on their podcast. Immigration rights, LGBT rights, climate change policies, and criminal justice reform are issues where progressives are now on the defensive. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. I think people have finally said the pendulum is swung too far to the left, and it's like, cut this crap out, all right? Let's get back to reality. And we got to get Trump across the finish line. So you guys got anything to say in closing? You got any last remarks?
Well, I don't know. I hope they're right. Every time, if you dig deeper into some of the polls, it's a little depressing because it's usually the older age groups that are leaning more right. I think one of the things that the most dramatic things is that younger women are voting inordinately towards Kamala Harris. That's
well, they got Taylor Swift telling them to do it too.
Exactly,
they're
right.
very influenced by that social media.
So I'd be interested in looking into their arguments there. But I think they're right. There are pockets. We're like you mentioned, we're pretty unabashedly conservative and right leaning. But you see a lot more pop culture figures who have sort of woken up a little bit and turned away from the left. Russell Brand. These are people that I don't pay too much attention to, but Russell Brand and Joe Rogan, they're more free thinkers than what the left will allow. Right. So the left rose up being sort of in rebellion to conservatism. I mean, that's what they are. They portray themselves as liberal, and we're going to go against the common grain. But once they started pulling the levers of power, that's what happens with leftism. Once they get control, they take control, and they start stamping out minority voices. And people, I'm hoping, and I'm glad to hear that people are waking up and people are sort of rebelling against that new authority, the authority of the elites that the Democrat Party and the left in this country pretty much personifies. So I'm glad to hear that. So I guess that's my closing. That's what I'll leave everybody with. And go ahead, Leonard.
That's good, Leonard. What do you got to say? Wrap it up for us here tonight.
Well, you got to remember one thing about me. See, I'm on the winning team because when you're on God's side, he's going to always do what is right. Now, remember one thing, Joe, he still owns this universe. He'll drive us to do what is right. So I have no concerns about what's going to happen as we move forward because he'll drive us to the right every single time. So put that in your back pocket because we're wired to win. We can't lose.
Yeah. I got you. And I heard God is Republican, too, by the way. But
there you go.
See you guys. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks.